Guys, our friends at Ridge have done it again. After creating the world's greatest wallet, they have now launched the Ridge key case. You no longer have to be bulked down by your old jangling keychain. You got to try it out for yourself. Click on the link in the description below. Use the promo code Chael. That's going to get you 10% off. And look how good it goes with my Ridge wallet. The Ridge key case secures between 2 and 6 keys. It organizes your keys in a compact silhouette and folds out for easy access. There are 6 colors and styles, including carbon fiber and my favorite, burnt titanium. The Ridge team is so confident that you like it, they're going to let you test drive it for 45 days. If you don't love it, send it back, get a full refund. Go to ridge.com/Chael to save 10% today, or just click on the link below. Jake Paul, Top Ramen. Now, guys, where do you begin on this? Well, I don't know of what angle to attack this. Top Ramen had a contract that he agreed to. He is saying things now such as, when you offered me that contract, I had 45 minutes to sign it. There was no proper negotiation. Okay. That has nothing to do with anything. I mean, that would never even be admissible in court, quite literally. You signed it, whatever happened before that, absent to unwilling, absent to a gun to your head, it's a legally binding contract. Top Ramen has brought this up, and the community of boxing has supported him. Top Ramen weighed 216 pounds the first time the New York State Athletic Commission checked on him. 24 days later, I'm making that up. 26 days later, I'm real close. 28 days later, I mean, you guys get my point. He was less than 1 pound. Lost weight, right? Now, that's simple calories in to calories out. Top Ramen came out and said, my body could not lose any more weight. That, of course, is impossible. Of course. It's calories in to calories out. There's something known as physiology. That is impossible. But if you mentally had to eat the food and couldn't do the work, you don't get to lose weight. I'm not giving him a hard time. I'm saying for him to bring that forward would not be admissible. Nobody reasonable would even listen to that. The boxing community supported him. He was planning, which he has now revealed. This is not an opinion. This is not a conspiracy theory at this point in time. He has revealed openly, I was never going to come down to 200 pounds. The contract and the agreement was that he weigh in at 200 pounds on Friday. When he reported to the arena on Saturday, he weighed 210 pounds. Now, from the time that he reports to get in the ring is about 7 hours. He's going to have a period of time. He can get into the ring whenever he wants, is what I'm sharing for you. But he's going to weigh 200 on Friday. He's going to weigh 210 on Saturday. If he doesn't do that, he's going to be fined 25% for every pound that he is over. So at 4 pounds over, you now make no money. He was going to come in at 215 pounds. He was going to defer to his contract where the $1 million goes bye-bye. He gets a minimum pay of $5,000. He's going to take the $5,000, but he's going to knock out Jake Paul, become a big star. Within his mind, this is his plan, and he revealed it. So his argument that he was making is, I should not be looked at for fault, even though I wasn't going to make 200 pounds, and even though I knew I was going to breach the contract, because the contract has a built-in remedy for that. I was willing to accept the punishment, and therefore off we go. Now, if we were to put that in other terms, simple terms, they aren't even close, but you'll understand this. If a guy goes and robs a bank and he knows for the $1 million he can steal that he's going to do 7 years in prison, if he takes the $1 million and then comes out and says, I'm willing to do the 7 years in prison, let me have the $1 million. No, they're going to take the money back and you're going to go to prison. It's an extremely flawed mindset. The boxing community has accepted it and supports Top Ramen. There has not been a boxer, we're 48 hours removed, there has not been a boxer, there hasn't even been a boxing promoter. I mean, Eddie Hearn or Bob Arum didn't even speak up in defense of Jake Paul. Nobody has defended him. It's the opposite. They're defending Ramen. There's a guy, and you got to know who this guy is. I would say his name for you if I could pronounce it. He's a very legitimate boxer. He can't make any money, but I mean, he's been in there a bunch of times. He even got some championships. He is all over Top Ramen's timeline on social media defending him, talking about it's only a few pounds and Jake is scared. Jake didn't do this because Jake is scared. Everything comes back to Jake is scared. Now, guys, if I ever call you a liar, it means I lie, right? If I call you a cheater, it means I'm a cheater. Have you met people like this? They always think you're getting ready to screw them over, and you're like, no, hey, I would never do that. But they are. Whenever they think this is you, they're revealing themselves, right? It's the old expression, when you point one finger, three are coming back at you. But it's very real in life. So this boxer keeps talking about scared. And I'm glad that he did, because that's a real word in the boxing community. They get scared, and when they're scared, they don't go do something. Human beings are human beings. You all get scared. MMA fighters, they all get scared. An MMA fighter scared or excited, confident he's going to win or confident he's not, will walk out there anyway. He'll walk out there and compete. He'll prepare for it. He'll do his best, and he'll roll the dice. These boxers that are using the word scared to represent Jake, they're talking about themselves and they're talking about their own community. I run into fake tough guys all the time. I knew fake tough guys when I was in Bellator. I knew them when I was in the Ultimate Championship. They were in the locker room. I knew fake tough guys all the time. But the fake tough guys would do the real work when the lights went on. And in boxing, they won't. I don't have a problem with how this whole thing went down. I have a problem with the lack of understanding of how this whole thing went down and the defense of Rahman. I have never seen Rahman. By the way, guys, did Rahman have a bigger supporter than me? He might have. Fair question. But did he have one? I told you guys I went down a rabbit hole. I was watching this guy. I actually watched the fight with Gunn, the fight that he lost. And I still came away seeing the skill. I came out and told you guys there's a lot harder fight than Jake knows he's in. And the odds are wrong. Jake should not be the fifth. I believed in Rahman. I didn't believe, he could have beat him or something. That's between those two guys. I don't know what kind of shape he shows up in. I don't know what his conditioning is like. I'm just sharing for you. That was a very hard test. That was a harder test than the Fleury kid. So, I come to you and I'm sharing that he's not going to take the money. He was prepared to not take the money in the beginning. He was prepared to pull a double cross, go opposite of the contract, accept the default, rob the bank, but be willing to do his time in prison. Okay, this was his plan. You have to understand something about New York, all right? Oh, by the way, after this fight was pulled, Rahman's done more media. Rahman's done more media since the fight was pulled than he did when the fight was on. But he has never had a level of stress go down. There is never a clear lower tension in the room than the interviews he's doing since this fight has been scrapped. It really shows that he didn't want to do the fight. I mean, you want to talk about who's scared? I don't get it. I don't get why that, Matt, you're scared. I don't get that. That's that's little kid talk. But if you do want to do that, there's one guy that's upset the fight isn't going. That's Jake. There's one guy who is preparing to rig the deck, forfeit all of his money to have a few pounds so that he could cheat to go out and compete with the guy. There's one guy disappointed this is over. There's one guy happy this is over. And I wouldn't even be talking to you if it wasn't for the defense of the boxing community. You wonder why Dana White is not going to jump in there with tens of millions of dollars, changing the community, changing multiple athletes and their trainers and their managers and their teams and their families' lives. It's not going to happen now. And it's not going to happen because you have people such as the boxer whose name I can't pronounce, but you'll see him in the timeline of Top Rahman if you go over there right now, that think that Top Rahman's in the right. It's disgusting and it's disappointing to a very high level. One thing you may not understand. In New York, and I believe this is unique to New York. Now, we have 50 different jurisdictions just within the United States, which is way too goddamn many, but we have 50 of them. I believe that New York is the only one that has a rule that two opponents that are fighting must be within 10%. They must be within 10% of each other's body weight. Now, this got tested at a very high level, and it got tested in the heavyweight class. Two athletes that are both heavyweights, they're in the same division, were not allowed to fight in New York. It was canceled one day before. You guys have heard of the Professional Fight League. Before it was Professional Fight League, it was World Series of Fighting. When they were World Series of Fighting, they went to New York. They had two heavyweights fighting. One was 264, which is within the limit, and one was 210, which is within the limit. New York canceled the fight because of an extremely unknown and unusual clause that's on their books that you must be within 10%. These guys were in the same division. They could fight anywhere in the world except there. Well, that's where the fight was happening, and the fight was canceled. Jake Paul can only weigh so much. He weighs about 190 pounds, but he really can't get to 93. He really can't get to 95. The same as Top Ramen losing weight as calories in to calories out. Jake Paul can't train and eat enough calories. So he weighs about 190 pounds. I can't tell you better than that. I got to call him about 190. So if Rahman's going to come in at 215, which is his plan, they would have canceled the fight. The fight cannot happen. It's why it was so important that he weigh in at 200 pounds. It's why Jake put the extra motivation in the clause of the 25%, not what you guys believe, which is that he thought it gave him an advantage. It was the only way they could legally do the fight. If Rahman comes in over the numbers that are contracted, the state cancels the fight. Now, the state was so concerned with the weight cut that they were monitoring it, and we ended up in this position in the first place. But anybody that thinks that Jake should have just, well, then to hell with it, put on 5 more pounds and 5 more pounds and 5, it's not his call. You're misunderstanding what happened here. At one point, Jake said, fine, do it at 205, because that's what the commission said. So we will not do it at 200. We will do it at 205. Jake said, then do it at 205. But when Rahman says, no, I'm coming in at 215, there's a mathematical equation. Jake just can't gain the weight. I don't think that you guys understood that. I don't think anybody that thought Rahman was on the right side of this understood that. I think that you think that Jake pulled it. There's even stories coming out there wasn't enough tickets sold and things like this. Look, I don't know what this does for the Jake Paul experiment. I really don't know. I was very surprised Tyron Woodley Part 2 did as poorly as it did. Generally, the sequel does better. It surprised me. My only comment on that. There was a gal on this card with Jake. Her last fight was at Madison Square Garden. It sold out completely. They brought her back. Now, she was going to be co-main, but they brought her back. I thought that in and of itself would have brought in some tickets and a little bit of interest. There's something here that I'm missing. But when the story came out that only $1 million in tickets had been sold, the conspiracy then came out that they want to unwind and send this back. Jake Paul got smashed on this. Millions and millions of dollars go out if you cancel an event. We've had organizations within MMA, Affliction comes to mind, that they canceled an event, it put them out of business. They never came back. The amount of money that you put over to then not open those doors and turn those cameras on is enough to send meaningful, successful companies out of business. And it's a very peculiar spot that Jake's in right now. What are you going to do? If the Jake Paul experiment is going to go on, it needs to go back to what it was, which is a famous Disney kid from YouTube fighting other famous people. And you can grab yourself some rappers and entertainers, you can grab actors, you can grab other professionals, you can grab guys from the world of MMA. You can't do business with boxers. It is a dirty, filthy community who is currently supporting the actions of Rahman, who openly violated a contract.